Warning: contains adult content including harsh language, violence, and sexual themes, and may not be suitable for people under age 17.
Kodo sighed and began to walk to the back door when he heard sirens. The neighbors must have heard the commotion, as was usually the case in these situations. Suddenly, Kodo froze. He heard the unmistakable wailing of a baby upstairs. He had never spared a single human life, but he really didn't have time to take care of the screaming infant. Kodo had stood there too long. There was a sudden rapping on the door. "This is the police!" a male voice called from outside. "Open up!" "Shit," Kodo hissed. It wasn't like the baby saw anything anyway, and wouldn't remember if it did. He heard the door being forced open and had no choice. Instead of taking the back door as he had planned, he ran back down into the basement. He was about to hop back out the window when he heard voices in the house. "Dear Lord," said a man. "There's no mistake," said another. "It's definitely that Sakura murderer." "Search the house," said the first voice. "He could still be here. Jiro, you search the basement. The rest of us will look around up here." Kodo slipped into an area between a stack of boxes and a water heater. He was sweating. "He'll just have to kill him. It's only one cop after all," the voice in his head muttered to him. The policeman came down the stairs and shined his flashlight, looking around. It went right over Kodo's head. The man turned to look at the opposite wall, and Kodo sprang, slitting the man's throat from behind. He barely made a sound as he collapsed to the floor. Kodo ran to the window and crawled through the bushes, peeking out at the flashing vehicles parked in the front. There were men pointing their guns at the house. He had to be careful. He saw a gap between where he was crouched and the next house. He sort of frog-hopped behind the bush in the neighboring house's backyard. He moved soundlessly, and as soon as he was in the clear, he sprinted from the scene. Kodo didn't stop running until he came to the edge of the river, hunching over and panting. He sat down in the grass by the riverside and dipped his hand and the knife into the water, letting it wash away the blood. He stuffed the knife in his pocket and took both of his hands out, placing them around his knees, which he pulled to his chest. "That was a close call," he thought. "Am I getting weak? Was not killing the baby a sign that I'd become too soft?" He shook his head. "That's nonsense. I would have been caught. The police were right on the doorstep when the thing started crying." He sighed and looked to his left. He stood up quickly, his heart racing with excitement. There, growing tall in the grass, were the most beautiful and vibrant pink maiden lilies he had ever seen. Mina strode through the door that evening looking exhausted. She set her bag in a small box on the counter and then flopped onto the floor beside Kodo. "Sorry I'm so late," she sighed, rubbing her head. "We got really busy, so I had to work a little overtime." "That's fine," said Kodo. He was biting his lip. "Do you, notice anything different?" Mina scanned him, brow furrowed. "You're covered in dirt?" she suggested, and Kodo blinked, looking at his jacket and pants. He didn't realize how filthy he had gotten. "Not about me," he said, trying to laugh. "Look around. What's new about the house?" Mina's eyes searched the living room, and then they rested on the vase sitting on the counter. Her face lit up with excitement. "Kodo!" she shouted, standing and skipping over to the vase filled with the maiden lilies Kodo had picked. "Oh, they're beautiful!" Kodo smiled broadly, standing and walking up to her. "That's why I'm all dirty," he lied. "I went out today, searching for the perfect flowers to brighten up the room. These lilies reminded me so much of you." Mina's eyes sparkled as she looked up into his face and giggled slightly. "You've got dirt on your nose," she said softly, and rubbed it off with her index finger. Kodo closed his eyes, his bottom lip trembling ever so slightly, his face hot. "You haven't fallen for her, have you?" sneered the voice in his head. "Don't be ridiculous," Kodo thought to himself. "I'm incapable of love. I hate everyone." His thoughts grew angry again. "Then kill her." He opened his eyes to see Mina smiling brightly at him. She twirled and sat on the throw in front of the television. "Any news on the murderer?" Haven't checked yet, muttered Kodo, feeling his stomach lurch. Mina turned the television on just in time to see the report. A couple was found dead in their home this afternoon, said the familiar female anchor. Hiro and Miyuki Sato, a married couple with a year-old baby girl named Ai. Mina gasped. He killed an infant? She squeaked. Hasn't he before? Said Kodo, furrowing his brow. Well, yes, but... The anchor continued. Thankfully, the Sakura murderer, as some are calling him, spared the little Ai's life, making this the first time he's ever left a human member of the household alive. Mina's expression changed from disgusted to slightly shocked. However, the anchor went on, also, for the first time, an officer was slain, his body found in the basement shortly after the police entered the house. We've never had one of our men fall victim to the Sakura murderer, said the chief. I have two theories. The first one is, I don't think he had time to run upstairs to kill the baby, seeing as we had arrived very shortly after we got the call from a neighboring family. The second one is, we believe he was in the house while we searched, probably hiding in the basement where we found poor Jiro. This case is getting much more serious than it has ever been. Mina suddenly shut the television off before the report was finished. Those idiots! She screamed, and Kodo jumped, staring at her. Much more serious than it has ever been? Are you kidding? She sighed, crossing her arms. Forget the FBI, they should bring in the CIA. Kodo's face turned white, and he suddenly found it hard to breathe. If it got to that point, if the CIA did get involved. Kodo relaxed, coming to a sudden realization. Mina, he said with a laugh, more relieved than anything, the CIA doesn't investigate murder cases. Mina blinked. They don't? She asked, perplexed. No, said Kodo. Their main purpose is to collect and evaluate foreign intelligence, really for the purpose of assisting the President of the United States. They are strictly for political and government purposes. Mina looked like she felt a little dumb. Oh, she said, hanging her head. Don't worry, he said encouragingly. I didn't learn that in school. It was just something I came across when I was doing a research paper in high school about Western cultural influences on Japan. I didn't expect you to know that. Mina smiled, blushing. I just don't want to be an idiot in front of you, she admitted. I don't think you're an idiot, Kodo chuckled. I bet you could tell me something I never knew right now. Mina thought, watching the floor for a minute. Did you know an apple, a potato, and an onion all have the same taste? She said excitedly. Kodo blinked, not really expecting something he truly did not know. Wait, what? No, they don't, he said skeptically. Yes, they do, said Mina, nodding her head. The only reason they taste different is because of their smell. If you pinch your nose and then taste them, they will all taste sort of sweet. I hate onions, said Kodo bluntly. Mina laughed. You wouldn't if you lost your sense of smell, she said matter-of-factly. Kodo wasn't sure where she learned this bit of information, or whether he believed it or not. Anyway, she continued, this case is really getting out of hand, and now they've named him the Sakura murderer? That's the best they could come up with? I think... She looked very sad, putting her face in her hands. I think we're all doomed. You make it sound like he's some sort of dictator that's bent on taking over the world, said Kodo with a nervous laugh. May as well be, said Mina. We don't even know what this guy looks like, or even how old he is. Mina frowned at him. I want them to catch him and sentence him to death, she said coldly. Kodo felt a chill run up his spine. If she ever found out it was him, she would want nothing to do with him. He's never cared more for a human being in his life. You know this is bad, said the voice. You're not supposed to care. The next few weeks went by in the same fashion. Kodo would wake up, try to kill Mina, get cold feet, and she'd leave for work. He would then go out and kill some hopeless family and return to the apartment where Mina would come home from work, and they'd watch the news to see if the killer had been caught. Then they'd eat dinner, go to bed, and Kodo would try to kill Mina in her sleep, failing again to do so. Then he'd awake and do it all over again. One day he came home from a very short slaughter and had much time to kill. He sat in a corner of the apartment living room and thought to himself non-stop. "See what you're doing to yourself," he thought, feeling emotionally exhausted. "You've tried to kill her maybe 100 times and you've failed. She's just another human. How hard can it be?" He sighed. "But I like her," he admitted. "I don't know why, but I do. I don't think I should kill her." He felt tension in his throat for a split second. "You'll regret it." Mina came home a few hours later, but she had someone with her. Koto had been playing with Haku and a little ball he had found on the street. He looked up, seeing Mina had a man with her. He frowned at the sight of him. He had shorter brown hair and brown eyes. Koto could tell by the way this man carried himself that he was a douchebag, said the voice in his head. "Hi, Koto," said Mina, waving as she slipped her shoes off. Koto stood slowly, meeting the eyes of the man, who sneered. Koto didn't like the feeling he got from him. "Who's he?" he asked a little more forcibly than he meant. Mina frowned and gestured to the man. "This is Akira," she said a little nervously. "We used to go to school together. He came into the bakery today, and I invited him over." She used a tone that said to Koto that Akira had invited himself over. Akira chuckled and walked up to Koto, scanning his grungy appearance. "Who is this faggot?" he asked, and Koto swelled with anger. Mina frowned. "Akira, be nice," she demanded. "This is my roommate, Koto." "He looks like you pulled him off the street," said Akira, giving Koto the dirtiest of looks. "Seriously, Mina, if you want a roommate, you better choose me. But I better warn you, it's a privilege to have me, so you need to be a good little girl and do as I say." Koto watched Mina's face and could tell she was regretting letting Akira come over. She was frowning, her big brown eyes searching Akira's face with fear. "The word I would have chosen was curse, not privilege," said Koto angrily. Akira's face was inches from Koto's, and a feeling surged inside his stomach as he watched his foe unblinkingly. "Just kill him," he thought savagely. "He's so close, right in front of you, and he has no idea what you're capable of. Just kill him." Koto clenched his teeth and turned from Akira's stupid face, sitting back down next to Haku. "I can't," he reminded himself. "Then Mina will know, and I'd be exposed." Akira scoffed and turned to Mina. "He's such a pussy," he said to her. "How can you expect him to protect you from the Sakura murderer when he won't even fight me?" "Are you comparing yourself?" asked Koto with a hiss. "What?" snapped Akira, jerking his head to look at him. "Are you saying that you're capable than worse things than that murderer?" Koto was staring at Akira in such a way, Akira trembled slightly. "Maybe you're confessing." "Are you stupid?" shouted Akira. "I'm not the fucking murderer." Mina suddenly stepped in front of Akira. "Stop it!" she exclaimed. "Koto is my friend. If you harass him any more, then I will kick you out of my house." Akira's expression softened. "Oh, Mina," he said in a sickly sweet voice. "I'm so sorry. You know I'd never wish to hurt you. All this time I've missed you so much. I long to speak with you again, and now I have the chance. I really want to catch up. I want you to share with me all of your accomplishments since we last saw each other." Koto rolled his eyes, turning away, but Mina fell for it. She smiled weakly and nodded. "I'm sorry," she said. "I just get defensive when it comes to Koto. I care about him more than anything." Koto froze, heat rushing to his cheeks. More than anything? He thought. When Koto turned to look at them again, he saw they had gone into Mina's room, the door left ajar. For about 30 minutes, Koto listened to them chatting about their lives. Akira was talking about being the CEO of a big corporation, but Koto knew he was lying. Akira was much too young, and his clothes looked like they were bought from a cheap superstore.